Welcome. Welcome. I am so grateful to see so many members, volunteers, donors, sponsors, history lovers, and lovers of River Forest and Oak Park gathered this evening in this historic and lovely 19th Century Club building, a designated Oak Park landmark. My only regret so far is I haven't had a chance to talk to most of you as I'm running around, so I'm looking forward to maybe later getting a chance to say hi to some of you. And it's nice to know others are hearing these remarks across the miles via Zoom, hopefully hoisting a toast along with us. I'm Frank Lipo, Executive Director of the Historical Society of Oak Park and River Forest, which this September will mark the 5th anniversary of our grand opening of Oak Park River Forest Museum at the corner of Lake and Lombard in Oak Park. Thank you. I mentioned that at the outset because the creation of a newly renovated but historic space in an 1898 firehouse has energized our organization and allowed us to serve our home communities and visitors to the villages in new and engaging ways, thriving despite the closures and disruption of the last 2 years. It is a beautiful space. Our museum is a beautiful space, and the project was only possible because of those who gave their time and talent to our organization, including many here tonight. It was a long-time dream and a new beginning for a 50-year-old organization. Yet that volunteer spirit, which is such a defining characteristic of our villages and so much appreciated and praiseworthy, was still not enough by itself. We also needed to raise $1 million in private donations to transform a plan for a vacant and deteriorated building into bricks and mortar reality. The community responded so greatly and supportively, and I know those of you who are here and like-minded residents know that what we value as a community must be robustly funded if it is to endure. As an organization whose operations are not funded by tax dollars, but by earned revenue, service, educational programs, and the generosity of those who believe in our mission, we are so grateful for your financial support of tonight's celebration and throughout the years, which literally fund our good work as storytellers, gathering and sharing historic artifacts and photographs and documents that shed light on so many diverse, important, tragic, and fun stories. In the spirit of gratitude, I have the pleasure of publicly thanking some important people. I ask you to all stand as I introduce you. Marianne Pruchnick, Jenny Stevens, Wendy Daniels, Fran Knekel, Peggy Cinco, and Jan Dressel formed the committee which planned tonight's festivities and took a leap into the future during the depths of Omicron. Thank you so much for your work on this. I also want to thank Garland Flowers on Oak Park Avenue for its donation of so many beautiful flowers for this evening's party. We are so grateful for our generous sponsors. You can see their names across the stage and up on the screen. The 19th Century Club, Marianne Pruchnick, and our local office of Beard & Warner all stepped up to support tonight's gala and Heart of Our Villages Award. So for those, that grouping, if we could, and those of you who are here, next, I would like to recognize Susie Goldschmidt of Byline Bank. Is Susie here this evening? Oh, I see her there. Of course, Byline Bank at the corner of Lake and Forest in Oak Park, with a branch on Lake and River Forest, who again has stepped forward to support our work. We've had a long, fruitful relationship with Byline Bank and its predecessor, Community Bank of Oak Park River Forest, and Susie and her staff are a pleasure to work with. Thank you. Our lead sponsors, Forest Park Bank and Oak Park Bank, have stepped up in a big way to support our organization and tonight's festivities. Jack Venisi of Forest Park Bank, is it Jack here? Oh, there's in the back, Jack Venisi of Forest Park Bank. We have had occasion to work with Forest Park Bank for years, including closely with the late Don Offerman and President Dan Watts, who were and are so dedicated to our sister villages and help make many good things happen in our communities. And even though we love history, we also embrace change. Chris Griffith of the new Oak Park Bank, is Chris here? I don't know. Oh, there's Chris Griffith. Is here, and though Oak Park Bank has only been open since late 2021, Chris is an Oak Park River Forest High School graduate and co-led the team with fellow OPRF grad Melissa Cleveland in opening their main office in the old Winbury space at Lake and Oak Park Avenue. And it's a beautiful space, and also a just constructed new branch at the corner of Ridgeland and Madison. We old-timers will always call it, that corner, the old Billy's Fruit Market. So sorry about that. We'll try to work on that, Chris. And last but not least, I want to literally reach behind the curtain and ask Rachel Berlinski to step in front for a moment. Rachel is our operations manager. She's such a talented and enthusiastic jack of all trades, who I know so many of our volunteers and the public absolutely love working with. I join them in that sentiment. Just 2 months ago, she celebrated her 5th anniversary in our employ, and I don't know what we would do without her, including the preparation for tonight's event. We didn't have a party for her work anniversary because of the COVID surge, so let's show her our gratitude now, those of us who know. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Peggy Tuck-Cinco, President of the Historical Society of Oak Park River Forest and our OPRF Museum.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of all of us at the Historical Society of Oak Park and River Forest, our staff, our board, our volunteers, our members, I want to welcome you all to our 2022 Heart of Our Villages Gala. It is my great honor and privilege to serve as the board president of the Historical Society of Oak Park and River Forest, which operates the Oak Park River Forest Museum. Last Sunday brought us the arrival of the spring equinox, and the change in seasons and the longer daylight hours always bring smiles to our faces. But rarely has my smile been brighter. This year in particular, I want to shout, it is so good to see you all out there and see your smiling faces here tonight. And yes. And that is not just those of you who are gathered here in person, but a shout out to our virtual attendees as well. Spring is a time of optimism, and that is certainly our state of mind at the Historical Society. Yes, we have all been on an extreme roller coaster ride. At times, it's been terrifying and hair-raising, but we are very excited about the possibilities that lie ahead. At this time, I want to recognize our Historical Society board members. If you would all please stand. Please stand. Come on, don't be shy here. My job is made so much easier because of the commitment, enthusiasm, openness to new ideas, and a love of history that is exhibited by these folks. Plus, they are really nice people. And I know that not all board presidents can say that about their boards. I encourage you to talk to any of us if you have questions, ideas, even complaints, although we welcome the occasional pat on the back as well. Remember, we are your museum, your historical society. At its most basic, we are the community's storytellers. We are dedicated to telling as many different kinds of stories as we can, and we can only do that with your help. Here are just a few examples of recent and upcoming events that have taken place or will be taking place. Activities that happen inside the building, that happen outside the building, and out there in the world of the online, wherever it is, virtual world out there. 2 weeks ago, we hosted 125 Girl Scouts for a special Girl Scout Day at the museum. On Sunday, March 1st, I hope that many of you will join us for our annual Tales Our Houses Tell House Walk. May 1st, what did I say? I always say March. May 1st. May 1st for our Tales Our Houses Tell House Walk. It's in River Forest this year. We've got some incredible houses for you to tour. It's going to be great. Our popular neighborhood walking tours will be resuming as the weather improves. The monthly Zoom programs have proved quite successful, and if you can't catch them live, they are available on the museum's YouTube channel. They're only about 30 minutes in length, so just the thing if you need just a kind of a quick break, and the subjects run the gamut from the serious to the downright weird. And finally, in June, we will again be participating in the Juneteenth celebration here in Oak Park. Finally, and I have to say, I'm pretty sure I am not theologically authorized to do this. I want to issue a blanket absolution to all of you who have come up to me or any of our board members tonight or at any time in the past, and you've sheepishly confessed that you have never yet set foot in the OPRF Museum. It's okay. We get it. It's never too late, and we're going to be really happy when you do come visit. As I thought about what my hope was for this evening, beyond the obvious of raising funds for the museum and honoring our incredible awardees, I was reminded of a quote that is widely attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt. But being the historian, I thought, well, I really ought to fact check that. And it turns out that, yes, it's widely attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt, but probably she didn't say it. But you can pick Eleanor Roosevelt, or you can pick other people to whom it's attributed. Bill Keane, the newspaper cartoonist who drew the Family Circus strip, comedian Joan Rivers, and even an animated turtle in the Kung Fu Panda movie. Now, whatever its origin, this really was my hope for you tonight. And the quote reads, "Yesterday is history." Of course, that's our stock and trade at the museum. "Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift, and that's why we call it the present." And that really was my wish, that today we take time to enjoy this present moment and to honor these wonderful community treasures that we have. And as I have looked around this past hour, I think my wish came true. I saw people laughing, enjoying good food and drink, seeing old friends, meeting some new people. In other words, really celebrating that gift that we call the present. I want to acknowledge in attendance tonight, this evening, the village president of River Forest, Kathy Aducey, who you're going to be hearing from Kathy in a little later, and the Oak Park village president, Vicki Skaman. Vicki, where are you? Wave. And we also want to extend a warm Oak Park and River Forest welcome to our brand new Oak Park Village Manager, Kevin Jackson. Kevin, and wait, so you here? Kevin is in his very first week on the job. We're so glad he was able to join us this evening, and we know that he will be learning so many stories about our community in the coming months. We look forward to sharing our historical perspective with him and definitely giving you a tour of the OPRF Museum. So with that, I would like to bring up Ken Trainer, who needs no introduction to most of you. You know him as a columnist and journalist for the Wednesday Journal. I think of him as our sort of unofficial village raconteur, and we'll invite him up to tell you something about our first awardees.
Tough following, Peggy. Thank you. I am here to introduce my two favorite Oak Parkers. I apologize to anyone in the audience who thought they were my favorite. But you're close. I'll just say that. But we're talking about the Robinets. And it's hard to get better than that. When you enter the main branch of the Oak Park Public Library, just inside the library proper, the first words encountered are inlaid on the floor before you. I believe that any people's story is every people's story, and that from stories we can all learn something to enrich our lives. Harriette Gillum Robinet, from her book, If You Please, President Lincoln. Good words, but then Harriette and McLouis Robinet had a good word for everyone. That word was home. Before the Robinets made Oak Park home in 1965, they were part of the Great Migration of African Americans away from the awful repressions of the Jim Crow South to the highly segregated and often unwelcoming North. Harriette grew up in Washington, in the Washington, D.C. area. Her maternal grandfather grew up a slave on Robert E. Lee's plantation. Mac grew up in a small town in Louisiana, a place where black families couldn't paint their houses or buy a new car because it would make them look too uppity and put the family in danger. I grew up, Mac says, where making trouble was the last thing you wanted to do. Harriette and Mac both had scientific backgrounds and met at Xavier University in Louisiana, where both were teaching. They fell in love. Harriette got a job in her field, microbiology, in Washington. Mac landed a teaching position at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Later, he worked at Argonne National Laboratory for almost 40 years. They married in 1960 and started a family in 1964 with the birth of Stephen. Their next 4 children were adopted: Philip, Rita, Jonathan, and Marcia. Then Linda was born, completing their family. A growing family needed more room than the tiny 0-bedroom UIC staff apartment where they lived in the early 60s. Friends suggested they look for a home in Oak Park, but Oak Park didn't want them. At any rate, the real estate industry didn't want them here. Happily, that has since changed for people of color. To expose the industry's racially motivated practices, the Robinets joined the North Shore Project, which documented the unequal treatment black couples and white couples experienced. When a black couple asked about homes to purchase, nothing was available. When a white couple followed and asked about the same properties, they suddenly became available. Blacks in 1965 needed a white straw buyer to purchase a home for them, a subterfuge that was necessary to work around unjust restrictions. For Mac and Harriette, that straw buyer turned out to be Don and Joyce Beiswanger, who had purchased a house on the 200 block of South Elmwood, but offered to sell it to the Robinets. There was one catch, Don said. The police say you have to move in midday, midweek, and you have to move in this week. That's how the Robinet family joined the first wave of Oak Park integrators in the 1960s. I call them the 3 R's: the Robinets, the Registers, Don and the late Dolores, and the Reeds, the late Henry and the late Sherlyn. More followed. Black newcomers weren't always welcomed by neighbors or other Oak Parkers, but the Robinets were received with open arms and free appliances. Mac says they moved in with little more than a card table and a frying pan. Then one neighbor gave them a washing machine. Another donated a refrigerator. They were even gifted with a piano. The neighbor next door, however, couldn't handle the change. Why would you want to live someplace where you're not welcome? Now I have to leave, she said to them. She was gone in a month. And every morning for the first few months, several empty beer bottles were left on the Robinets' front steps. Pretty creepy, but happily nothing worse occurred. Harriette chronicled those early years in an article for Red Book magazine, part of their Young Mothers series. It was published in February 1968 and titled, "I'm a Mother, Not a Pioneer." It's an important story and well worth reading. Wednesday Journal has it in their digital archives. Just Google Harriette Robinet Red Book magazine and it will come up. Turns out Harriette was both a mother and a pioneer, as became evident a couple of months later when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis. Of all the Oak Park stories I've had the privilege to tell in the last 30 years, this is my favorite. I'll quote just a small part. Home alone with 3 kids, the only black family on the block, one of the first and few in the village, her husband working 7 miles away at UIC, Harriette couldn't help feeling vulnerable as the world around her was about to burst into flames. One can only imagine what it was like for newly arrived black families. Here's what it was like. Harriette wanted to do something instead of just feeling helpless. So she brought out their flag and put it up outside. A few hours later, when she glanced out the window, almost every house on the block was flying the stars and stripes. Harriette used the Red Book article as a springboard. She had left the workplace to stay home with the kids, and she obviously had a knack for writing and research. Between 1976 and 2003, she penned, longhand, 11 books. The first two featuring a child with disabilities as the central character. Ride the Red Cycle was inspired by their son, Jonathan, who has cerebral palsy and now lives in the Ryan Farley home in Oak Park. According to Linda, Mac was the inspiration for the father in that book, who built a number of quad cycles and hand cycles for his son to get about. Linda describes her father as quite the inventor. The other 9 books were works of historical fiction, beginning with Children of the Fire about the Great Chicago Fire. Harriette's books won numerous awards, but of much greater significance, her daughter, Linda, still uses them to teach her students at By School. For the last 17 of her 21 years in District 97, Linda has taught 4th grade in the same classroom where she was a 4th grader herself. Her father, of course, teases her that she could get out of the 4th grade if she would just study harder. Of her books, Harriette says on her website, "Unless we know our history, we have no perspective on life today. How can we know where we're going or appreciate where we are today if we don't know where we're coming from?" I hope the Historical Society has that emblazoned on the wall of the museum, maybe above a full set of Harriette's books. The website also says she tried to put both European and African American characters in the stories, to have no villains but the systems, and to thrill as well as uplift readers. Here's what Linda would like you to know about her parents. They have the most powerful love I have ever witnessed. Their love has always been strongly rooted in the Roman Catholic faith. Being Christian for them is not about being perfect, but about being vulnerable, weak, and human, and being called to help, to be in service to each other, to care for others and the planet, and that all people are God's children. I became a teacher because of my parents. They were constantly teaching all my brothers and sisters. They are still teaching me to this day about grace and humility and enduring love and always the pursuit of learning. Grace and humility for sure. Mac likes to downplay the significance of their contributions. We didn't really do anything, he says. We just showed up. Well, an old adage holds that 80% of life is just showing up. And when you're African American from the Jim Crow South, just showing up takes a lot of nerve. As for the other 20% of life, we're really glad you showed up in time to join the local Citizens Committee for Human Rights and help lead open housing marches in the late 1960s, in the mid-1960s. From Stevenson Park west on Lake Street to downtown Oak Park to picket and protest against those unethical real estate practices. We're glad you lobbied the village board to pass a landmark fair housing ordinance in 1968, one of the first in the country. We're glad you raised 6 kids here who have contributed in their own ways: 2 teachers, a social worker, an eBay entrepreneur, and an IT specialist at Gottlieb Hospital and longtime employee at the local library. We're glad the 2 of you walked to daily mass at St. Edmund hand in hand. We're glad you got involved in the Oak Park Climate Action Network and also started the Repair Cafe 9 years ago so we can keep our old appliances functioning. It's at Fox Park, 1 weekend a month. Everything from breast pumps to chainsaws. And keep them out of the landfills. And we're glad you made some trouble, the good kind, as John Lewis would say. When you moved in, your cranky old neighbor next door said, "Oak Park will never be the same." We're particularly glad about that. Probably more than anything else. Except for the fact that you're still here and continue to be one of our anchors. When they got here, Mac said, Oak Park seemed like another planet. A lot of people say that, but not so positively. He was comparing it to every other place he had been, or they had been. He also said this was the first place where we felt part of the community. Which brings me back to the story I told about April 4th, 1968. Here's how my column ended. Growing up here, I always thought of Oak Park as special. Hemingway, Frank Lloyd Wright, and all that. But it wasn't until Harriette told me the story about the flags that I knew for sure. But that's not the end of the story. 54 years after the Robinets helped make Oak Park a better place, they're still here in the same house. And they're still here partly because of that April day in 1968 when their neighbors, some of whom are probably in attendance tonight, I hope so, demonstrated in clear terms that Oak Parkers were capable of rising above their biases and fears to become one people. From many flags, one people. Or as Harriette puts it, that's when I knew I was home. So this is our opportunity to say to the Robinet family, thanks for coming home. I too believe that any people's story is every people's story, and that from stories we can all learn something to enrich our lives. Thank you, Harriette, Mac, Stephen, Philip, Rita, Jonathan, Marcia, who is no longer with us, and Linda for enriching ours. And while we're at it, the Historical Society would like to give you its Heart of Our Villages Award for showing up, and for doing a lot more than showing up. We thank you. I don't actually have the award, but I believe it's coming up soon. Oh, it's down here, okay. I think you can come up. Yes.
But down here, we'll take it down there. It's my great honor to, come on over here so we can get a good picture, to present you and Harriette and your whole family with our Heart of the Villages Award. Thank you.
Thank you. So when Frank called and told me about the award, of course I said I was honored, but I was sort of overwhelmed. I couldn't think of anything else to say. So he said, well, think about it and get back to me. And so we thought about it, and we thought about it, and we thought about it. But then we finally realized that this award is about families, not just about our family. So in behalf of all of the families represented here tonight and all of the families in Oak Park, I humbly accept this award. Thank you.
Wow. I would now like to invite up Kathy Adducey, the president of River Forest, and to tell you something about our next honoree.
Well, thank you, Peggy, and good evening. What a pleasure to be asked to introduce and speak about my dear friend and mentor, Carlotta Lucchesi. What a cause for celebration it is. We're here tonight to honor recipients of the Heart of Our Villages Award, given by Oak Park River Forest Museum. Being at the 19th Century Club reminds us of our rich architectural heritage that both River Forest and Oak Park share. It is part of what makes our communities unique and beautiful. It brings us pride. What also brings me immense pride is the volunteerism that I also see in both of our communities, and the way our residents have come together in times of need and in times of celebration to serve one another. Your support tonight for this event celebrates both. That is why I am so pleased and proud tonight to help recognize Carla Lucchesi as a recipient of the Heart of Our Villages Award. Carlotta is all heart and then some, and she has demonstrated it time and time again. Carlotta was born and raised in Oak Park, but her family, along with her husband Ron and their 2 children, have lived in River Forest for more than 3 decades. She graduated from Trinity High School and then attended George Washington University in Washington, D.C., where she attained a degree in journalism and American history. After graduating, she returned to Chicago and began a very successful career at Marshall Fields in the management level, and then became an entrepreneur in fashion. Carlotta fitted most of the women in and around town, including me, with high fashion and style. Just saying, this is a Doncaster outfit, so thank you, Carlotta. I met Carlotta in 2009 when I decided to run for River Forest trustee. It was then that I learned of Carlotta's command of River Forest politics and the respect so many residents in River Forest had for her. She and I would have conversations about the need to have a balanced and pragmatic approach to moving River Forest forward. She clearly was my mentor and guide on how I approached leading the village of River Forest. When I ran for village president in 2013, Carlotta inspired me to run a campaign based on vision and leadership, not negative or divisiveness. She knew our community was better off when we worked together and collaborated with each other on issues that were important for the good of the community. After spending time with Carlotta and talking about those issues and how we could work together to have a better community to live and work in, I decided that I could be elected the first woman village president of River Forest. It was Carlotta who gave me that hope and inspiration. I was so impressed with what Carlotta had accomplished as a woman, as a leader, as a mother, and as a wife. She moved me in so many ways. Carlotta ran for District 90, River Forest Board of Education, where she was elected and served for 2 terms as a board member. Her peers appointed her vice president and then president of the school board. Carlotta made an impact. She had the vision that our school children in a growing premier school district needed more space for physical education, for special education, and just overall more classroom space for our teachers and our students. Under her leadership, D90 built a new gym, added classrooms at Roosevelt, Lincoln, and Willard. As D90 president, she worked collaboratively with the River Forest Park District to advocate for more green space for our children by helping to create Washington Park and supporting Priory Park developments. She hired a new superintendent, Dr. Tyra Manning, and she worked tirelessly to pass a much-needed referendum, which of course is never easy, in order to prevent any major cuts from the curriculums and services to our children. Here's when you know, as a leader, your policy and leadership had an impact. Due to Carlotta's leadership, D90 was awarded the U.S. Department of Education Blue Ribbon School Award, the Illinois Department of Education Academic Excellence Award in Curriculum and Financing, and then from 1999 through 2013, they were awarded a Bright A+ award by School Search. These Bright A+ award recipients are among the top 5% of all Illinois school districts. Only 60 of 866 districts in Illinois are recognized in this category. Congratulations, and thank you, Carlotta, for helping River Forest schools earn the highest accolades in education and for advocating for our children in River Forest. While serving on the D90 Board of Education, Carlotta was also instrumental in the overall public safety of our community. Carlotta was a founding member of the Oak Park River Forest Gang and Drug Task Force. This task force has grown to be a very instrumental public safety tool for our two communities. By working with our police department, this task force has helped keep drugs and gangs out of our children's lives. Of course, Carlotta didn't stop there. She went on in 2000. She filled a seat on the Oak Park River Forest High School Board of Education. And during her 7 years on the school board, the high school would undergo many changes, including building new fields, restoring the football stadium, installing new stadium lights, building a garage, and expanding the curriculum. You know, perhaps Carlotta or OPRF could use your skill sets to solve their pool conundrum. Never know. Carlotta began her community service by joining the Oak Park River Forest League of Women Voters, where she served on their board of directors. She would later join the River Forest Community Center, where she served as the member of the board, vice chair, and chair. She would play an instrumental role in moving the community center to its current location on Madison Street. Carlotta also had numerous other leadership roles in many location-based organizations. She was the first female member of the River Forest Service Club and a longtime member of the Women Leaders in Philanthropy, where she has served as vice chair and chair. She's a member of the DePaul University School of Music and serves on the Dominican University President's Advisory Council. It has been said that everywhere you look, Carlotta has left her mark on this community. Well, I agree. Carlotta, thank you for everything you have done for River Forest. Your giving heart is what makes you a very worthy recipient of this award. Congratulations and thank you, my friend and mentor. Thank you. Thank you.
No, not yet.
Yeah. All right, you got it.
We can't let her get away quite that easy. We decided that it was going to take two of us to really do Carlotta justice here. So, over the years, Carlotta has been closely involved with a lot of major issues, some of the things that you've just heard Kathy talk about here. And on that basis alone, she would be a worthy recipient of our Heart of the Villages award. But you don't have to dig very deep to discover that she is someone with very broad and varied interests, a valued friend to so many, and I can see so many of you out there who count her among your dear friends, and that's a wonderful thing to have. A woman with a very big heart. And through all of these various interests and activities, the big ones, the smaller ones, she has really worked to make this world a better place. And not just here in River Forest and Oak Park, but really reaching beyond our borders. And this ethos of service, this way of looking at how to be part of the solution is also, I know, a characteristic that she and Ron have passed along to Lauren and Catherine, and it's a wonderful model to have. Carlotta is a leader, but she's not the kind of leader who sits up on a pedestal. She's a leader who's a doer. Many of you in this room have worked with her on committees, on boards, on commissions, and you can testify to that. And Carlotta the doer probably would have been over here this afternoon working on the flower arrangements for the tables, except we said, no, you really can't do that this year, but we did have to borrow her vases. You know, that's just one more facet of her life, this sort of creative lover of flowers and gardens. She is firm in her convictions. She is quite accomplished in convincing people to say yes to her, all the while treating people with respect and kindness, and that's something we could all really use a lot more of today. Her service to the Historical Society of Oak Park and River Forest has been invaluable. She's a lifelong lover of history, as Kathy mentioned. You know, she studied history in college and began her serious involvement with the Historical Society back around 2000, 2001, when she served on the Oak Park Centennial Gala Committee. She is a long-serving board member of the Historical Society, and her work was key to enabling us to move into our current home at Lake and Lombard. Carlotta chaired the community task force that analyzed the cost and feasibility of restoring this old firehouse as a new permanent home for a history museum. But she didn't stop there. She then took one of the leading roles in the fundraising campaign to raise that $1 million in private funds that were needed to make that a reality. And let's remember, folks, there were a lot of people who did not think that that could be done. But she was among the people who knew that it could be. On a personal note, I have to say that I have depended on Carlotta's wise counsel, her unflappable demeanor on many occasions. She has a great talent for being able to look at an issue, a challenge, an opportunity, and see through the distractions, to see through all that extraneous noise, that hubbub, to cut through all the you-know-what, and be able to identify that core, that what is really central, what's important about this particular issue. So thank you so much for helping keep us on track. Carlotta was born here in Oak Park, so her heart first started to beat right here in Oak Park. And we are so grateful that that heart continues to do so much good for the people who call River Forest and Oak Park home. Now you can come up.
This is yours. Lovely. Okay, very good. Can you hold it? You want to hold it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. See you. Well, that was overwhelming. Thank you for this wonderful award. I'm delighted and honored to receive the Heart of the Villages Award and to be included with Harriette and Mac Robinet. And thank you, Kathy and Peggy, for those very kind words. I did grow up in a family that believed in public service and involvement in your community, and I've always believed in giving back. I love history, I love our communities, and I love my family and friends. They have been so supportive through the years. History is important. We learn so much from our history. And Oak Park and River Forest have a fascinating history. I believe in the mission of the Historical Society and have been lucky enough to witness and be a part of spectacular growth for our local museum. The History Museum is a significant institution in our villages and the state of Illinois. Please come and visit our museum and see, I have to get my plug in too. See our wonderful exhibits and our great programming. Another area of focus for me, as you heard, has been education and doing the best for what's for our children. It started with my work on the Community Center Board and then leapt to running for the 2 different boards of education. Neither board was without its challenges. School boards tend to see more controversy, whether it is a referendum for an increase in funding or additions for school buildings or lights. Lights are a big issue. It is an important, interesting, and demanding job, but the rewards are well worth the hard work and long hours. Seeing the accomplishments and success of our students and the dedication of our faculty and staff was reward enough. I think it was after I finished my last year on the high school board that my husband, Ron, turned to me one morning and he said, "Carlotta, please, I want you to look in the mirror every morning and say no 10 times. And then maybe you will know what to say when somebody calls you and asks you for the next thing." He has been such a wonderful person putting up with all of this. And it did work for a while. Yeah. Thank you to everyone who has come this evening, my wonderful husband, Ron, our daughters, Lauren and Catherine, both of whom we are so proud. Sorry. It is very special to look out and see so many dear friends and family. This has been both an honor and a privilege heartwarming, and truly deeply appreciated. Now please stay and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you. No, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
Thank you all. I think Carlotta sort of summed it up. Please stay and enjoy the rest of the evening. If you've not had a chance to come and say hello and congratulate our awardees, please do that. Thank you so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
If someone has a Toyota Sienna parked in the parking lot outside, I'm going to need you to move it now. It's somebody's spot and they're trying to get in there.